Okay, so now let's move on to looking at the questions that require us to use a two-way analysis of variance. And when you read the questions, you'll see that the questions are asking us to consider two between subjects independent variables simultaneously. So like if we look at question 4, it's asking us about how much time is spent playing computer games at wave 1, so that's the dependent variable. And we want to know if that differs as a function of ethnicity. A person could either be Hispanic or they would be not Hispanic, so it's a between subjects variable. Sex, similarly, a person would either be male or female, the way they're coded in this study. And then also their interaction. So we've got two independent variables and we want to look at them simultaneously. And importantly, we're asked here to go back and get the whole sample. So we're no longer looking at just the younger children in the study, we're looking at the whole group. So the first thing that we'll do in our data set is we'll go to Data, Select Cases, which is exactly where we went before to select out the 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. But now we're going to want to reset it so that we actually include everybody in the study again. So when we hit Reset here, and then hit Paste, we go look in our syntax window, and it's turning the filter off. So now when we run that, then when we look in our data window, you see that those little hash marks are gone. So now we've got everybody again. Okay, so let's look over here and remember what we're asked to do. We're asked to find out if time spent playing computer games at wave 1 differs by Hispanic or sex. So when we come back over here, we're going to go to Analyze. Now, I want you to notice if I went to the one-way ANOVA, well, it wouldn't make sense, right? I know it's a two-way ANOVA. It's not going to give me a place to put in a second independent variable. So now what I need to do is actually go to General Linear Model, and I choose Univariate. And it's univariate because we have a single dependent variable. That's what that means, a single dependent variable. So I'm going to click Univariate here, and my dependent variable is going to be computer time at wave 1. So it's this variable here. I'll shoot that in as a dependent variable. And now I'm going to put my two independent variables here under fixed factors. And they're fixed factors because I believe that I have all possible levels of that independent variable. So with respect to are you of Hispanic origin, you could only answer yes or no to that. So I put that in as a fixed factor. With sex, in the way it's coded here is just as male and female, and I recognize this is a complex social issue, so I'm not trying to be insensitive to this, but in this case we would view sex as being a fixed factor. We should be more inclusive in how we coded this, but this wasn't my data set. But we would still consider this to be a fixed factor, that we've got the way we're viewing the world, we've got all the conditions that are possible. So now I'm going to go to Options, and I'm going to hit Descriptives. I always want to make sure I have the descriptives so that if anything's significant, I can present the means and standard deviations. I'm also going to go to Post Hoc, although I don't have to go to Post Hoc for this one because both independent variables only have two levels, so I don't actually need Post Hocs. But I will go to Plots, and what I typically do is I put on the horizontal axis usually the one that has the most levels. Now in this case they both have two levels, so that's not really going to be my deciding factor. I think I'll put Hispanic on the horizontal axis and then have separate lines. Actually, let me take that back. Let me do it the other way around. I'll put Hispanic as separate lines, and I'll put sex on the horizontal axis. I'm going to add it, and then because these are not continuous variables, I'm going to ask for a bar chart. So I'll hit Continue here, and then I'm going to hit Paste. Now I'll go to my syntax window. I'll highlight that syntax and hit Run. And here we go. So this is telling us the numbers that we have in each of these four possible categories, whether you're Hispanic, yes or no, and male, female, yes or no. Here's the descriptive statistics for all of those possibilities. And then here's where we're going to look for the answer to our statistical questions. And so this is going to be interesting because there's a lot in here that you don't actually need to use. Some of this gets run actually as a regression, and so we're going to actually ignore. Let me just highlight these top cells. We're going to ignore these top cells. So I'll actually make those black so you don't even see them because they're distracting. Okay, we're going to ignore those top cells, and we're also going to ignore these cells here because this has to do with the fact that it runs it simultaneously as a regression. We're not going to be concerned with that. Okay, so this is where we're going to be looking, and now this looks like the source table that you are used to. And so you can see that I've got degrees of freedom for Hispanic, which is a 1 because there are 2 levels, so 2 minus 1. Sex is a 1 because 2 minus 1, and then of course you know how to do the interaction by hand. Here's the degrees of freedom for my denominator, and then here's the 3 F's that I'm going to need. Okay, so if I highlight this, this, and this, I'm going to make those red because, let me look at it closely in a second, the significance here is greater than 0.05. But for these, I'm trying to double click my table, holding down the control button so I just get the cells that I want. For these, it is significant because when you look, P is less than 0.05. So you're always looking in this column for significance. One of them is not significant, so there's no main effect for ethnicity, but there is a main effect for sex, and there's an interaction of Hispanic by sex. For all of these, you're going to use the same denominator. I guess I'll put that in yellow since it, oh, these colors are awful. We'll put it in, I don't know, what do you guys like? Purple. Okay, so that goes with all of the conclusions that we're going to write. So now I come back over to my space here, and I'm going to write in my answers. So here's the first main effect. There is not a significant effect of ethnicity on time spent playing computer games. You can see the F with 1 and 6469 degrees of freedom is 1.68, P greater than 0.05. So that's just coming from the table. Okay, then we're going to do the same for the next main effect. So you see there is a significant effect of sex on time spent playing computer games. F, again with 1 and 6469, equals 84.69. That's coming from over here. P less than 0.05. You could put P less than 0.01 or 0.001 here if you wanted to because it's so small. And then, because it's significant, we need to write a sentence that explains the nature of that difference. So we come back up here to our descriptives, and you can see that there are totals are given here for males and females, and so we're going to get those various means. Let me just put those in some different colors. Let's see, I don't want to be gendered about this, so we'll just put them in gray. Okay. Oh, I always do that. Sorry about that. I hate when I do that. Leave the text black. Please become black. Make this gray. Now make the text black. There we go. Okay, and then the women, or the girls, different cell. Sorry, I probably shouldn't have taken the time to do this. All right, sorry, I'm not going to trouble you with that, wasting your time. Okay, but basically that's where you're looking. So you're just going to write a sentence that says boys, you're going to give the mean. We know that this is hours, so we'll go ahead and put what units that is. Standard deviation 8.49. Spend significantly more time because there are only 2 levels, so we know that they're different from one another. Playing computer games than girls, and really, to be specifically correct here, we should put P less than 0.05. I should have done that in the earlier questions as well. Okay, then the next thing to look at is the interaction effect. So we write here, there is a significant interaction of ethnicity by sex on time spent playing computer games. F with 1, again we're looking down here now, 1 and 6469 degrees of freedom is 6.72, P is less than 0.05. Now because there's a significant interaction, what we need to do is that we need to actually plot the interaction. And so we asked for this bar graph. So you can highlight that bar graph and you can hit Control-C and you can then paste it right into your answer sheet. So you're going to hit Control-C to copy it, and then you're just going to paste it right into the answer sheet. Okay, so I'm going to copy it, Control-C, and then Control-V to paste, and I've got this in here. Now what I need to do is I need to write a sentence to actually explain what I'm seeing or explain my interpretation of this figure. And so again, you can describe this in lots of different ways, but the way that I interpreted this is that for girls, there's actually not much difference as a function of ethnicity. I should probably say that to be more clear. In computer, I'll just put computer time as a function of ethnicity. But non-Hispanic boys spend more time than Hispanic boys playing computer games. Okay, super. All right, let's go on to the next one then. So the next one says, this time spent playing computers at wave 1 differ as a function of grade, sex, or the interaction of grade by sex. I see. So this is asking about grade instead of ethnicity, but otherwise it's essentially the same question because we were looking at computers up here too. So when we come over here to analyze, and we go to our general linear model, and we go again to univariate because we only have one dependent variable. It's hours per week playing computer games, and now instead of Hispanic by sex, we're going to do grade by sex. Okay? Here we'll need to go in and make sure that everything looks like we still have it. Oh, we didn't have a post hoc before. We need a post hoc for grade because it has 6 levels, 7 through 12. We're going to hit Tukey there and hit continue. We'll need to go back into plots because since Hispanic went away, the plot that we had won't make any sense. In this case, I would put grade on the x-axis because it is it has more levels, and I would make separate lines for sex. And although it's not the same people in grade, I would still leave this as a line chart. Oh, sorry, add that. Leave that as a line chart because we sort of will think of grade as being continuous even though it's not the same people. I think you'll see what I mean when we see what it looks like. We hit continue here, and let me just check that I've still got descriptives. Yes, descriptives is checked. Now I hit paste. I go to my syntax window, and I'm going to run this analysis of variance. And you can see it's much more complex because we have so many more grades. Again, this just tells us how many people we have in each condition. This gives us the descriptives we'll need if we need to write up any post hocs. And this is where we're looking for our actual findings. So again, if I get rid of this top stuff and this corrected total, which is things that we don't need to worry with, I'll make those black so they just go away. Right, now this is where we're going to be looking. So you can see here that we've got 2 that are significant and 1 that just misses. It's 0.065, so it's greater than 0.05. So sex and grade, we've got significant main effects. So I'm going to highlight those, hit background, I actually remembered. Make those green because those are significant. Sex by grade, the interaction, just misses, but that is non-significant because it is not less than 0.05, it's greater than 0.05. And then again, let me just make this error cell, whoopsie, make this error cell purple. That applies to both of them. Alright, so now when we come over here, we're going to write out our answers for our main effects and then for our interaction. So here's our first sentence for the main effect for sex. There is a significant effect of sex on time spent playing computer games. F with 1 and 6320 degrees of freedom equals 315.62, P less than 0.01. Now since it's significant, the next thing we need to do is to write a sentence that explains how the means go. What's different from what? And so let me just put in the sentence here that I've already typed so I don't waste your time looking at it. So we're going to say that boys spend significantly more time than girls playing computer games. And so when we look up here, that came from looking at these means. So here's the mean for boys, right? And we can make them, again, I'll try to make them gray. Okay, and here it is for girls. Make them some other color. Man, these colors are weird. Okay. Ugh, I can't get it right twice in a row. Sorry. Okay, so that's where that sentence comes from. So I'm just going to write that the boys spend more time, and you could write this better, spend significantly more time playing computer games than the girls. All right, and again, to be perfectly correct, we would put P less than 0.05. So the next thing we'll do is we'll write this sentence that explains what we found for grade. And so you can see that there is a significant effect of grade on time spent playing computer games. F with 5 and 6320 equals 14.53, P less than 0.001. Okay, now writing out the findings from the post hoc for this one is really complicated. And you can see you've got 7th grade versus everybody, 8th grade versus everybody, 9th versus everybody. And when you get about halfway through, it starts to repeat because you already sort of know what you found. So I always just kind of start at the first one, sometimes sort of muddle my way through it. But here I can see that 7th graders are not different from 8th graders, but they are different from 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. Okay, so they're different from everybody except 8th graders. Let me look at 8th graders real quick. 8th graders are not different from 7th graders. Oh, but they're not different from 9th or 10th graders, and they are different from 11th and 12th graders. So this is going to be complicated to write. And when I get I'm going to get all the means and things from up here.